My biggest goal going into this year's growing season involves organizing. Mainly, I want to focus on cleaning up clutter, piles of wood, rocks, and putting things away when I'm done with them. In some cases, that involves cleaning up from projects that never got off the ground. This is the original patch of asparagus I planted when we first moved to this property. Back then, I was pretty well grounded in the till everything like crazy camp. Since beginning to learn about and transition to no-till and other farming techniques, I've been pretty happy with them. One thing that always nagged at me, though, was the fact that I was converting to no-till after having plowed, disked, and tilled this ground multiple times. So really, it's not no-till. It's not anymore till. There's nothing wrong with that. You can't go back and undo the past because you learned as you aged. That's the entire definition of experience. But I wondered for a while what I would do if I wanted to expand into areas that hadn't been tilled. Areas that had been growing to grass and weeds while I focused on other plots. Now, thanks to learning about and taking full advantage of mulching with cardboard, glass clippings, and leaves, those areas are under enough control that I can start bringing others into production. But there's some serious sod and perennial weeds here. How do I build a deep, well-aerated and fed asparagus bed without a lot of metal equipment? Well, it turns out the same no-till techniques and the same materials provide the answer. The only difference is timing. Sheet mulching with cardboard and something to hold it down, as long as it's done well enough in advance of planting, will kill the grass and weeds in this plot, and their biomass will be churned into beautiful, loose tilth by earthworms, insects, and bacteria. In my case, the thing that will hold down the cardboard is horse manure and shavings, which I get from an abundant source a few houses down the road, where the lady's happy to be rid of it. This is fresh manure, and if I were still tilling, it would destroy the garden. Fresh manure burns young plants. Actually, what's really happening is that all the unbroken carbonaceous material is sucking nitrogen out of the ground to try to come to a 30-to-1 balance, which is what is needed for good compost. That nitrogen is then no longer available for the plants in your garden, and they turn yellow, shrivel, and die. But, since I'm not planting anything directly into this plot right now, and there's a layer of cardboard acting as a buffer, what I'm really doing is providing time for the manure to break down, and since it's in a thin enough layer, it will break down substantially quicker than it will in an anaerobic pile, and providing protection for the decomposers to work on the sod and cardboard. Unlike when I mulch existing trees or annual vegetables, which I've covered in previous videos, I'm not going to put down several layers. In each of those cases, I want a minimum of 3 sheets of thick, corrugated cardboard on any given spot. If I'm mulching a tree, I'll go for more, maybe as many as 5 or 6 layers. But that much cardboard will actually last a long time. In the case of a tree, that's good. In a case where I'm going to be putting a shovel into the ground next spring to plant more asparagus, like here, I want that cardboard to do its job of killing and breaking down the sod, and then get out of the way. So I'll put down a maximum of 2 sheets, in most cases in fact only 1, then cover with manure, and then wait. By this time next year, I'll have planted asparagus into a well-composted series of rows out in the orchard, mulched around it, lined the edges of the beds with cedar logs, and beautified this plot, while making it more productive, all with a utility knife and a shovel.